the Share and Learn. It came about after consulting with the alumni schools, and you felt that you wanted to have more contact with alumni schools to share good practice and have book recommendations and ideas linked to your topics. And a number of schools mentioned that they felt less confident using empathy texts, but they did and they wanted more information when it came to the social action sort of side of the programme. So for the first part of my session, I'm going to recap social action and then put it into context with examples from my school. Oh, here's Lizzie joining us.
Hiya, sorry.
Hi, Lizzie. You okay?
It's come out really loud. So sorry, I pulled a face to begin. Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit late.
No, don't you worry at all. So good afternoon, how are you? Thank you for joining us. So for this part of the session then, I'm going to talk about social action, and the last part of the session is going to be opened up to hearing about good practice. So we're going to hear from a few schools. We should have Matthew from Morriston Primary joining us, hopefully in a minute. We've got Rachel with us already from Llandilo. We've got Lizzie with us from Gelliswick Primary. We've got Liz here from Ysgol Harry Tudor. And we've got Karen then from Pentre Harvard. And they're going to talk to us a little bit about some of the work that they have been doing. They're going to be discussing some of their topics, some of the books they've been using across the school, in their libraries, and also a little bit about Empathy Day then as well. So if we've got others joining us and you want to contribute at any point with examples of your good practice from your schools, please join in the chat, but no one is under any pressure then to join in and contribute. If you just want to come along and listen, I promise I won't put anybody on the spot this afternoon. So I'm just going to share my screen with you. So the first part of the session is about social action. And when we move beyond the stages of reading our empathy text and connecting with them, the next part is to put that into action. And ACT is all about developing those pro-social attitudes that lead to social action. And these are activities that children can do to make a positive difference to others or in their environment. So pro-social attitudes are defined as a concern or empathy for others, or a feeling or a responsibility to help. And even very young children can demonstrate these behaviours by helping, sharing, comforting and cooperating. And we can help strengthen children's empathy skills by giving them the opportunity to take these social actions and giving them a sense of themselves as people who are willing to make a positive difference in their community or their world. And there are lots of ways that young people can take practical action to make a positive difference. These can include volunteering or fundraising or campaigning or supporting peers. And children need to understand they don't have to try and save the world all on their own. It's all about taking those small positive steps that can really make a difference. And when we look at the 4 purposes of our Welsh curriculum, we're really encouraging our pupils to be ethically informed citizens. And these actions can be at home, they can be in school, they can be in the community or the wider world in order to make that difference. So we are strengthening those empathy muscles in order for those children to understand that they can make changes in not only their daily lives, but others as well. And it's not just something that they do, and it's not just a one-off, it's something that they will keep going. So Empathy Lab supports a model of social action, and it moves then from being charitable into that deeper engagement with social attitudes and social issues, so that the pupils begin to focus on understanding and challenging injustices and inequalities. They start to learn that it's not just about being kind to people and communities, but it's about standing in solidarity with them and beginning to really think critically. So these are also those authentic contexts that our Welsh curriculum promotes, alongside that key skill of critical thinking and those underlying principles of equal rights for all. So social action has positive impacts, not only for the beneficiary, but also for those who are taking action. So these are some of the benefits. So you have improved well-being, social capital, that sense of belonging, or cynefin as we call it in Wales, civic engagement, and that sort of active citizenship that we are seeing in our curriculum as well. And we always put context to our learning in Pembroke Dock, and we always use the UNCRC, the children's rights, so that the pupils see that reason behind their learning. So when they instigate social change and social action, they also feel that their rights are being listened to. And in that way, they engage more in their learning because they understand the meaning behind it and the why. So I'm now going to share with you a couple of examples of social action that we've taken in my Year 1 class. Because often schools have told me that they struggle to use social action with younger pupils. So these are examples of where pupil voice has really been harnessed and used to create that climate of change in our school and also in our local community. So we read the book, it's No Money Day by Kate Milner, and I linked it to the global goals. So we looked at global goal number 1, which is no poverty. And we were going to start looking at a different goal every week during our topic, but the book kind of took us in a different direction when we started reading it with the pupils. So if you're not familiar with the book, it's about a young girl who lives in poverty, and her mum has to visit a food bank. However, when we started reading it, our pupils didn't have the understanding of what a food bank was, and they wanted to find out a little bit more. So we invited the local food bank into the school, and that kind of took the topic off in a different direction because the children could see the injustice of this and why some pupils had to visit and some children had to visit a food bank, whereas others didn't, why people had to live in poverty and others didn't. So it opened up a lot of discussion and conversation around that. So I asked the pupils what they wanted to do. And they decided then that they were going to go and speak to our head teacher and see if we could have a food bank in our school, which wasn't as easy as we thought it would be, because when they started to investigate it a little bit more, they found out that our local Tesco and our local Asda, they give their excess food to different food banks, and there wasn't that sort of food that we could sort of have as a food bank and a food share in our school. So they then wrote letters to different businesses, and they asked, did they have anything that they could give us, any non-perishables that we could have and we could use within our school. So we started to have quite a few different items in. And we also had a little bit of money from a grant as well. And our pupils decided that they wanted to have these Take What You Need trolleys, which you can see in the picture. And every class in our school had a Take What You Need trolley. And within that, then our pupils were surveyed to see what they wanted in them. So they wanted fresh fruit to be available regularly. They wanted hairbrushes, and they wanted hats, and they wanted sun cream and brushes and all sorts of things down our end. At the top end of the school, they wanted things like sanitary products, they wanted deodorants, and lots of other things. So the trolleys then were filled with these, and every day then the trolleys are replenished, and pupils can literally come and take what they need. And they do, they don't take more than that, they just take what they need. So we then had other products that were brought in. We had nappies, we had washing powder, shampoos and things like that. So we decided then to have a help yourself hub for parents, and the parents then could come and help themselves to things. But we wanted to make sure there was no stigma attached to it. So we've popped it outside our main reception. So parents or any members of our community can literally just come and help themselves, and they don't take more than what they need. And that idea is still going now. We're a few years down the line, and these trolleys then, that was my year one's pupil, my year one pupils social action. And that again, that came from our youngest pupils then. So the next thing that we've done, and this is something more recently that we've done, we read the text What Happened to You by James Catchpole, and I don't know if any of you are familiar with this text, but it's a beautiful story about a little boy, and he has a disability. As you can see in the picture, he has one leg, and he plays in the park, and some children come up to him and they ask him, what happened to you? And he doesn't like talking about what happened to him. He just wants to play like a child does. So our pupils read that, and it started a bit of a discussion really about the park next door to our school. And they started talking about how the little boy in the story wouldn't be able to use some of the equipment in our park. And they started talking about children's rights and how everyone has a right to play. So we headed outside to the park and we went for a bit of a walk initially, and they were surprised to see holes in the path and how bumpy the paths were. And they could see that there was a roundabout, but that roundabout was suitable for a wheelchair, but none of the other equipment was. They saw a swing, which was supposed to be disability friendly, but it would require an adult to pick up a child to put on it. And one of the older children then said that he's got a sibling, and his sibling would love to go on a swing, but was too big to be picked up to be put on there. And they were quite cross about that. And when they looked at the benches there, you can see in the picture, again, you can't put a wheelchair under them, there are slats on them. So they felt they weren't child friendly for them at their height, which was interesting to hear, but they also felt that they weren't disability friendly. When we were there as well, they saw a lot of litter in the park, so they decided that they wanted to go back that afternoon and do a bit of a litter pick, which was quite useful really, because we kind of did our numeracy from that this afternoon. We did a bit of data handling, as you do as a teacher when you see these opportunities. So that was really good as well. The following day, then, we started to write an accessibility report on the park. So they started to formulate their ideas and what they felt needed to be changed within the park. So they then started asking, well, what can we do? How can we make a change? Some pupils went home. This little boy, he decided to create and design his own park at home, and he brought that in. So we then decided to design our own parks and what a disability friendly park would look like for them, which was really interesting. We then wrote letters to the local council, and we put forward our points of view from a child, and they were really interested to hear that, because the Memorial Park Committee, who run the park, they were meeting in July, and they then said that they would put forward the children's points of view to the committee. So next week on Wednesday, we have some of the councillors coming in, and they've listened to the children's point of view. So they're really excited to find out if there are any changes that can be made, if there's money in the budget for any of these changes, and if there isn't for the equipment, if there is, to help change the pavements and the paths to make sure that they are wheelchair friendly as well. So this is something that will benefit our pupils, but it's also something that would benefit the community as well if these ideas take off. So we're really, really hoping that we can instigate that change from these children. So we're really lucky in Wales because of the autonomy of our Welsh curriculum. We're allowed to do this, and the skills that we were going to cover at the beginning of our topic, we managed to cover, but the children actually led us down a different route than we were going to start with. And that content then was driven by them in response then to the empathy texts. So now we're going to hear a little bit of good practice from some of our other schools that we've got here. So I'd like to start with Karen, if that's all right. Karen from Pentre Hafod, as you joined us first. Would you like to introduce yourself and just have a bit of a chat with us about what you've been doing in Pentre Hafod?
Right, thank you very much. Obviously, some of you I know, some of you I've met quite a long time ago. My name is Karen Davis. I've been in the school longer than anybody else, and I started the empathy journey. I think it's about 7 years ago. Then we started to embrace it, and it's really embedded in Upper Hills. I have to see Sarah as well from Bryn Hyfryd. That in the beginning we worked very much as a cluster school as well. I think we were one of the first secondary schools to become involved. We're almost like a pilot school just to see then whether or not a lot of the skills could be transferable, because oftentimes within the primary sector, you've got a lot more flexibility than we have, especially when they get higher up school with Key Stage 4 as well. But where we are with empathy at the moment, I mean, it's really truly embedded into everything that we do. registration time, every form reads an empathy book, and it's lovely. I'm an English teacher as well, but it really allows you perhaps to explore things that maybe you wouldn't necessarily choose out of choice, and it opens up so many, you know, different discussions, things perhaps that the children are concerned about. And I mean, books that we've used in the past, like The Day the War Came, really resonates with everything going on at the moment. Boy Everywhere as well, looking at the refugee situation and how people are treated, you know, when they find themselves in that position. Run Rebel Run is another one that we've used extensively. And when it comes to the registration books, sort of we review them, and I know that my form really enjoyed 11. We're not really aware of everything that had gone on, and it generated so much, you know, fantastic discussion from a historical point of view and a moral point of view as well. Also Once was another one that, you know, we were able to do cross-curricular along the way. They've done things about the Holocaust, and they were really genuinely interested in what was happening. More recently, with the books that we're looking at, I'd say they're more gritty, you know, sort of more teenager inspired, and it has, you know, opening up avenues about texting and use of EpiPens, allergies, you know, sort of appropriate conduct with relationships, looking at the fact that when they put themselves in a situation, how choices might not be the right choices as well. When it comes to what we do empathy-wise, as I said, I mean, for Empathy Day, we do surveys. They recommend, they make resolutions. They've given me book recommendations. And over the last 2 years, I'm no longer in the library as such. So it means that, you know, we've got other skills people in place. Do you mind if I just take this? Sorry, this is because I'm doing a trip. Apologies.
No, you carry on. You carry on. We'll come back to you, Karen. Okay. Liz, can I ask you to take over? Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you, Liz.
I've sort of focused really on our Empathy Day work over the years. We kind of followed on as a school from Pentre Hafod with their first. I think we were one of the next, and our cluster, of which Kate and her school and other schools in our cluster are part of it. So we've been building on year, building up the momentum for Empathy Day. And this year, one thing I wanted to say was because it coincided with D-Day, we were having D-Day presentations in school. And I thought, how can we adjust that so that we can still keep the empathy process, empathy high in focus? And so D-Day Dog by Tom Palmer, I don't know whether you know it, but it was a perfect D-Day Dog. Perfect shoe in to insert into the mentor time. So all year 7 and 8 mentors, I sent them a video link of Tom Palmer talking about D-Day, and this slotted in really nicely before the learners went off to a special commemoration. Maybe some of you were involved in that as well, with the armed forces. So it was just a really nice opener for them, and a bit of background to D-Day on the 80th anniversary. And a perfect start to our Empathy Day celebrations, which as a secondary school, they're ongoing and they're still going on, which is great, really, and we're keeping that momentum going. So we have themed slides in mentor time. So every mentor throughout the year deals with discusses different themes. And so throughout, well, from May onwards, I featured empathy boosting books from this year's collection. Both empathy boosting books for the lower school, and then also more YA focused material on those. So highlighting the collection and specific titles from this year's collection. Obviously, working in the library, I'm the librarian at the school, so I feel, and many librarians would say the same, that it's no good just what we do in isolation. It's got to ripple out across the school. So we've got to make sure that what we do links with everything else. So if mentors are showing slides that have got some book recommendations, I make sure that those books are on display at the library help desk and in other feature displays to make that sort of visual link for the learners. So I had the books that were on those slides on display, and also we've got the empathy collection on display as well. The book collection, I made sure that that went out into our Tudor Times, which is our newsletter, so that the community were aware of those books, both the younger books and the older, because just because we're in secondary doesn't mean that we shouldn't also celebrate and enjoy picture books. So I think, you know, it's a no money day that Kate was talking about. We've got that in the library, and I think that's a really important connection to make, because the learners come from Kate School and other schools, and they then will see the books, and you know, we all love the picture book too, and they're never, I'm constantly saying to them, they're never too old for a picture book to enjoy an illustrated text, and that just gets that continuity between our primary schools and our secondary as well. So those books I try and make sure that those books are featured as well, and that, you know, it's families, isn't it, and the family and caregivers. We gave a link to our partner primaries through that, and through our Tudor Times. So in English, for our Empathy Day celebrations, years 7 and 8, we love the empathy shorts. I don't know whether you've used them before, but they are magnificent. The empathy shorts and the empathy read alouds are brilliant. They're high impact in a short space of time. So if you find that you haven't got time to read a whole story, as many schools haven't in that time, so they have been really, really useful. So our English department made use of Race to the Frozen North, Someone Else's Shoes, Ella on the Outside, and Glitter Boy this year, and those read alouds were used in lessons. And then this was a prompt for the emotions maps. So the learners then created emotions maps based around the characters in those stories. And they also then went on to do their own. There's one there. Through the characters, and also thinking about their own emotions and how they felt. We had some amazing ones and some quite moving ones as well. Really, really interesting. So that worked really, really well. And I've been using them in our book club. We're reading When the Sky Falls by Phil Earle, fantastic Second World War story. And we've been using quite a few of the empathy materials, the Roll on the Wall, and the emotion maps. And we add to our emotions maps for each of the characters as we meet each week in our Rebel Readers, they're called, and talk about the stories. So that's not just to be confined to English, as we need to make sure that every department, every faculty is involved, and music are wonderful here. So the Piano at the Station was a fantastic opportunity. I love that book, and I thought of one of our music teachers. I went to him and I said, how are you about marking piano keys? Do you like that? Do you sit in the camp of marking them or not? Because I knew that in the story they mark the piano keys. And he said, I like to mark them. He said, I'm in that camp. So I said, right, perfect. Have you read this book? Took him The Piano at the Station. Yeah. And it's just the most amazing story. And he used that in the class, played piano as well, played Helen Rutter talking about the book and sharing a bit. And I think some music teachers read a bit as well themselves. So it was a really nice way of using one of the empathy books. And I love that it's Barrington Stoke as well. So increasingly their list is just getting better and better, in my opinion, so much more inclusive. Love that. And we use in other contexts as well. We have fortnightly empathy read lessons in English. Really fortunate that we do that, and they base themselves in the library for those lessons. So we've been reading a selection of books. I was just thinking of Kate's discussions about food poverty, because one thing I note to myself while I was listening to you, Kate, made me think I need to link in with that with our learners when they come in, when we're talking the books that we have. No Fixed Address, as a boy who travels in a van with his mum. Initially it was only supposed to be a month traveling in a camper van, and that is where he lives. So he doesn't have the washing facilities, he hasn't got the money for food in the same way as some of his classmates, and he keeps it secret. And it's just the most amazing story. And we bring in discussions when we read the text together, and we make sure that the learners read as well. So the teacher and me are reading, but the learners are also given the opportunity to read. And this is working so well, the confidence. I was just thinking today, we've been reading I Have No Secrets, and we're just coming to the end with one class today. And I was thinking about one learner, and her reading skills have just developed so much over the course of the year. She's built that confidence up in reading aloud, and it's just the most amazing story as well. And we use the character discussion prompts, the questions for this year's Empathy Day, put them in a basket, cut them all up, put them in a basket, and the learners picked one at random, and then we just, throughout the discussions, sort of, they got the chance to answer one of those questions. So they had plenty of thinking time, and then we maybe stopped the discussion, stopped the reading, and allowed them to answer that question within the context of the whole book, or maybe within the context of what we just read. And that worked really well. So I think we're going to be adapting that and using those in our future empathy read lessons. In the library, we did an adaptation of musical chairs. I got told off by one of the pupils, this isn't musical chairs. And I said, well, it's musical chairs with a difference. It's empathy musical chairs. And so we put one of the empathy books. I created a sort of collection from past lists and ones I knew, and sort of tried to make sure that it was relevant to the class. So I knew each year 7 and 8 class, picked books that I thought would work for them, because obviously bearing in mind that not everybody is a massive reader, and finding ones that I thought might just click for certain learners. You put one book on each table setting, if you like. So we've got tables of 6. So put them round the table, they all stand up and they walk or dance. We had some dancing going on as well, dance around the table. I played the only empathy linked piece of music I could find was Alanis Morissette, Empathy. And so I played that, and they walk around the table or dance around the table. When the music stops, they sit down and they have a look at the cover, the blurb and the opening of the book that's in front of them. So it mixes it up a little bit. Obviously, they could choose books that they were already familiar with, that they'd read in class, that they'd read in year 6 or before that. But it was also opening up new books to them, and hopefully some new choices. And quite a few took some books out following on from those lessons. So it was really, really helpful. One boy actually said he'd never read a book before, which, as you know, in primary schools, you will know that they might say that to us in secondary, but we know different. We know that you have been reading books with them. But he told me he hadn't read anything, and he took away, well, now, of course, I've forgotten the title of the book. It's gone right out of my head. But he took away one of the books that we'd featured, and he's going to read it over the summer. And I've offered him a chocolate bar if he brings it back, having read it. So hopefully a little extra incentive there. But so that worked really, really well. And it was a nice way of giving them new sort of opportunities, new books to add to their repertoire, hopefully. We use the emotions maps as well for World Burned Down by Steve Cole, which we've been reading as a class read with some groups, linked to their the skills curriculum and their work on the rainforest. So it's been a really nice lead in, and just instead of drawing in response to the book, which I might also get them to do as an activity, I said to some of them, you might want to do it as an emotions map instead. And they were already familiar with that because they'd done it in their English lessons. So they could translate that across to how Carlos was feeling at the beginning of World Burned Down. And it helped us to focus more on the character and their feelings rather than the action, because there's quite a lot of action at the beginning of the story. But it helped them to home in then on the characters instead, and the frustration and the loneliness and fear and anger that Carlos was feeling. And just to, sorry, I know I'm going on a bit to close. The skills classes in year 7 have been doing empathy resolutions, and they're still carrying on, and they have been doing empathy walks. And one class are now about to do, because they've been reading The Soup Movement by Ben Davis. And in the story, the characters do mitzvahs, like little gestures of kindness and empathy towards people. And this class are going to actually create their own mitzvahs and combine it with the empathy walk around school. So they'll do their empathy walk and deliver the mitzvahs and do the mitzvahs, little acts of kindness around school. So I don't quite know what they're going to be doing, but they are going to be doing that next week. So the skills curriculum are translating that now into that pro-social action across the school, and hopefully then translating it into their own actions beyond the school boundaries. So I'm sorry, that was quite a ramble through. I hope that helped give some ideas.
Please do not apologise. I was absolutely enthralled by what you were saying, and it's so lovely because obviously the pupils you're talking about were the pupils that come up from us, and I love the way that you sort of each department has different things they do link to empathy as well. I like the way that you link like music to it as well, and I love your idea of musical chairs. I think I'm going to pinch that one myself. So thank you for sharing that.
To be fair, I can't take the actual credit for it, as we often do. We take ideas and then adapt them to our own situation. So I won't take the credit for it because it's not fair. It works well.
Any questions for Liz?
Sorry, I know.
So much. Thank you. No, honestly, that was absolutely amazing. Thank you. Karen, would you like to carry on? Sorry, we stopped you in mid-flow with the phone call.
Apologies, I've got 223 going to Heatherton tomorrow, so it's a quarter of the school. So
wow.
So as I said, I mean, as regards the library, I initially established it, and we did at that point have Year 5 coming up before COVID. But I mean, it's just been ever growing. We've got empathy collections. Certainly the students ourselves, I remember one head asked me, why don't you send out lists of books? And I said, well, children like different things. You can't necessarily, you can give them a suggestion, but at the same time, it's always better for it to come from the children themselves. And we've got such an eclectic mix now of books they really enjoy, from the classics to things like Heartstoppers are really taken off majorly. Manga is another very popular medium that they love as well. With empathy itself, I mean, we do our resolutions. They give me book recommendations. They do resolutions as well. And every Friday, I have an empathy club, which consists of 20 students from Year 7 to 11, and we do a range of different things. They talk about books together. We look at social issues. They have a chance to sort of share what's going on. And I think, you know, we've done empathy little stones, so that we've got sort of, you know, mindfulness activities as well. And it's lovely that you know, the way they embrace them. I've also been fortunate that I've been overseeing something called First Give, which allows a year group to sort of look at a particular local charity, put together a presentation, and then sell that presentation. And then at the end, the winning group, you know, they have a donation to the charity. And that seems to really encompass everything that we do with empathy. With the older children, I was given the opportunity to do the next stage of First Give, which is called Step Up First Give. And again, with the small group of Year 10s who elected to come along, they were targeting British Sign Language, because they felt that that was something that they really wanted to explore. We had an amazing lady come in, and she gave us different ideas. And, you know, they've made the pledge that they want the children to be aware of ways in which people communicate, and they've started to really put a social action together as well. But as I said, I mean, empathy is something, it goes hand in hand, isn't it, with everything that we do. And, you know, through the medium of books especially, for them to discover that you're not on your own. You know, sometimes they get so concerned. I mean, like, I know in primary school we might have the worry monster and things like that, and anxiety, that they're not on their own, and they can really look at the situations that perhaps characters find themselves in, and that generates so much discussion in a safe place and allows them then to realize then, you know, this might be going on, but there are solutions, and, you know, never feel you're totally isolated as well. You know, I think, you know, that's so important when it comes to empathy. I think we've also done within the Eisteddfod mode, the poetry competition this year asked them to think about identity. And so I sent the poems, the winning poems, to all our primary schools as well, so they had a chance to see what they did. And we're really fortunate that 2 of the boys wrote about their pride in being from Swansea and supporting their local football team. So we sent it to the Swans and they were thrilled. And then they were able then to see, you know, obviously they've all felt empathy with that as well. But we're looking forward to next year now, obviously ever growing, ever sort of developing, and continuing to ensure that, you know, empathy is at the heart of everything that we do.
Oh, thank you so much, Karen.
Okay?
You're so passionate. It's so lovely to hear you speaking. And again, two really good examples of secondary schools, you know, modelling empathy and making sure then that, you know, the children's well-being is at the heart of everything that you're doing as well, which has come across really strongly from both of you there. Thank you. So Lizzie in Gellerswick, so you're a primary teacher. Would you like to tell us what you've been doing?
Yeah, no problem. Hi. So yeah, I lead empathy in our school, and it's been a little bit slow getting off the ground, in all honesty. But one thing that we're doing alongside, you know, kind of exploring the books and using lots of the resources that Empathy Lab share, that Kate asked me to share, is we've got Empathy Explorer bags. So each year group has a little rucksack. And inside the rucksack, we've got a little listening switch. There's sometimes tissues, but there's not tissues in this one. And then we have a range of different books. And what they do is we have like, like Can I Join Your Club, and Cyril and Pat and the Steves. And these backpacks go out onto the playground. And if one of the Empathy Explorers then see someone who isn't playing or is having a bit of a hard time or showing some big emotions, they go over and they offer a book. So we do like the Empathy Explorers is a pupil voice group. So I meet with them and we just practice. We read the books over because some of the pupils are quite young. So it's just getting them confident about the books that are inside their bags. And we practice the listening switch, and we just practice that it's okay. They're not there to help. They're not there to solve problems. They're there to direct towards the teacher for anything like that. But on the whole, they're really positive because they just have children just sitting down reading books. And often I would say it's more, you know, children that might struggle with playing and having problems at break time, but it's kind of formed new friendships with other little children that are just looking at the books. And we do we've done lessons with like Can I Join Your Club and things like that on like Empathy Day, when sadness comes to call. What is it, The Rabbit Who Listened is one that we've used quite a lot. So they're all familiar texts that are in the empathy bags. They're never anything that's going to cause anything. It's all about emotions is what we're dealing with on the playground. But that's just, yeah, something that Gellerswick are doing that's been really successful, using the books in a non-teaching way. But in a way, I suppose it's the children's own little action towards using their empathy skills and building the empathy skills in a way that, yeah, break time caused lots of problems. So it's a little help for them as well.
I absolutely love that idea. Thank you, Lizzie, because obviously you've got to have the teaching in place before the children have those skills to be able to do that and model that in the playground. And obviously it's been really successful. And I love the idea of your pupil voice group as well, because that's something that we don't do. And I think that's a nice idea that I think I'd like to steal and take forward as well. So thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you. So we've got Rachel from Llandilo. Thank you for coming this afternoon. Would you like to share with us?
Hiya. So we've been on the Empathy Lab journey for quite a while now, and we felt that the Empathy Days was so successful that we needed a bit more sort of consistency then throughout the year to ensure that it was a golden thread sort of coming through the whole curriculum, not just sort of a day here and there. So we created a calendar for the year, which linked with so the rights of the child for that month. We linked it with a value as well. So for example, this month is the right to relax and play, which is the right of the month. And then you've got the value of friendship and cooperation this month. We've got a train your brain motto which links as well. So for example, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. And then we've built up a bank of books that link with that value and the sort of the thread that can go through for that month. So each class ensure then that they have sort of a carousel of activities throughout that month that link with a book they choose. Obviously every class have got empathy books within the reading corner as well, to ensure that they're having that constant exposure to them as well. But we find, especially when you're trying to manage such a, you know, if it's a primary school or a secondary, whichever, you know, it's a nice way to know that your rights are linking with your empathy books and values. It all comes together. That's been really effective. We've recently allocated empathy spotters, so they have a lanyard with empathy spotter. You know, we've created one, a little tag. So they have it, and they could be for a week or 2 weeks, and they sort of, if we're reading stories, it's their, you know, job to sort of work out what the empathy is within the story, how's the character feeling, things like that, but also putting it into action within the playtimes, making sure that they're spotting somebody who's showing good empathy, and then those children then, they may sort of have a little chat together to decide who the next person will be in the class, who will have that role. Obviously they are very tempted to pick their friends, but you know, so and so has been showing good empathy, but actually, you know, it's their friend, isn't it? But if you can encourage it, depending on the age, we've done it throughout the school up to year 6. So it's not, like you said, somebody said earlier about, it's not just being kind, it's how are we really, you know, tuning in to somebody and how we can help, but also you know, spot it in scenarios which are important in day-to-day life in the school. We've made sure that our role play areas within our all our classrooms have that diversity as well. So our role play down the nursery has, you know, not just knives and forks, chopsticks. There's, you know, there's making sure that we're thinking about how our children who come from different backgrounds are included within the curriculum as well. So there's that element. During Empathy Day, we had many things which were really, really enjoyable. So I tried to encourage different year groups to sort of scatter what we were doing rather than all do the same thing. So for example, empathy classes where I was down with the little ones to make sure they were, you know, physically making them and putting them on, and, you know, helping when they listen to stories to, you know, how the character's feeling. The children brought in books from home, so we had that extra bank of books so we could read as well for that time. Empathy Day resolutions, so, you know, how were they going to, especially the year groups up in the juniors, how were their actions going to be affected by their resolutions, so they can take it out of school at home as well. And in a nice task for September with a new class, which I'll be doing now in September, is to design their own listening switch so that they've got their own that's personalised to them. And then we use them within every day check-in sessions. So the child looks at their partner, presses the switch, and then they feed back how their partner's feeling to ensure that they've listened, and then you know, to help. It's a good thing because you're doing talking partners, you're having your listening skills improving, but you're also developing the empathy approach as well, because you're thinking about how the other person's feeling and feeding back. So you said earlier about the having a positive difference to the school, you know, as in a community, taking the action forward, new curriculum. We've recently completed an inquiry linking RE and music, and it was I'm in year 2, so our class was working on Sikhism and Christianity. So luckily with Sikhism, a lot of values come into it, so we linked values to our inquiry. So the children wanted to create a school song. So we created, when we were songwriters, and we thought about what ingredients we needed as people to become the best people we can be, leaving our school and going out into the, you know, the big wide world then. So we had a local musician come in and play guitar with us, and we had like a showcase where we sang to the parents and our assembly, and that's now our school song, and it's linked with values, all the values that are linked with our calendar that we set up for the year. They made bracelets which linked with the Sikh Karas then, and they're the value bracelets now, which remind them of things like empathy, which is such a key skill, and friendship. So I found that was really, you know, an authentic and real life scenario, which can be, you know, taking those skills forward with them. Somebody also said about D-Day celebrations. That was something our year 4 children linked their empathy day with. So like you said, it was really good timing. And another thing we've used a lot is emotion wheels, so that it's almost like it's always part of the class. It's not like one of those things you put away. So it's always like whatever book we're learning about, or whatever inquiry, if there's any personal and social element coming through, it's getting the children to use the emotion wheel, which can have a lot of words to describe emotions through colours. Obviously depending on what age group you're teaching, but it's giving them the emotional literacy to talk about, because it's good, it's all fine to say we're teaching them empathy, we're reading it through books, but they've got to have the language to explain, or to be able to put themselves in a position and, you know, talk about it properly then, you know. So our aim for next, well, I'll show you the books first. So that, I love this book. This was good, Dandelion. It was really good for celebrating when we were doing the work on Sikhism and different groups of people, and the fact everybody's different and things like that. This was a nice one to talk about. You know, this particular character is a little bit, as they say, unusual in the book, but they're celebrating that in the story, which is lovely. This is really nice, The Queen in Our Corner. So it's about somebody who is homeless, and then they all come together to build a house for her. So it's coming together as a community, not judging, knowing the person for who they are. And this is battered. This is an old one, but it's the beauty contest at the zoo. It's a nice one to just, you know, that start of the year where you've got your new class, and just knowing, you know, we're getting to know each other. Everybody's different. How are we all brilliant in our own way? And then looking forward to next year, I'd like to start Give Me 10. We used to do it years ago, but COVID came, and then it hasn't really come back. But I thought, Give Me 10. So for 10 minutes once a week, parents come in with their child at the end of the day. So they, you know, just before pick up, we'll have books out ready, empathy books, and they sit with their child for 10 minutes, reading that book, talking about it, giving them maybe question cards to, you know, help prompt questioning, and especially empathy-based questions. And then just making sure that that's happening in every class, possibly for 10 minutes, same time every week, and then get the reading enjoyable, and then promoting empathy at the same time. So yeah, that's where we are.
Oh, that's fantastic. I've written down those recommendations, and I know that Helen is loving those recommendations too. Karen has said that she loves the personal creative option that you had. We've got lots of lovely comments there from everybody in the chat there, if you want to go back and have a little look. So moving forward, I really want to build on some of these things that we're hearing about today. And we're going to be meeting half-termly in the future. And I think it'd be really nice to hear how some of these things are building. I love the idea of the Give Me 10. And I'd love to see in September how that develops. So if you are able to join us for our next session, I'd love to hear more about that. Sarah's joined us today, and Sarah used to be the lead in Bryn Hyfryd. She's here for a bit of a listen, which is absolutely fantastic, because we've heard you give lots of recommendations, and I've taken lots of ideas from you in the past, Sarah. So thank you very much for joining us, and I'm so pleased that you're going to be leading again. That's really great. I'm really sorry, Kay Carter, I don't know your first name. I don't expect you to contribute if you're just here for a bit of a listen. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, just here for a little bit of a listen, to be honest with you.
That's fine.
My name's Kieran. I'm from the Treorchy Comprehensive Cluster, working in Tom Juniors. So I'm just listening in for now, if that's okay. Thank you.
No, that is absolutely fine. Because I was looking through and I didn't have your name on my mailing list then for Tom Pentre, so I was just checking. Are you all right to pop your email address just in the chat there, just so we've got it for future when we send out invitations and things? Would that be okay?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. No, perfect. Lovely. So before I move on, because I know Elle wants to quickly introduce herself, for the next session, where I started this one talking about social action, is there anything that you would like any contributions from the Empathy Lab team on? Are there any topics that you've got coming up in September and you think, oh, I'd love book recommendations for that? Or is there a particular aspect of your empathy work that you'd like a little bit more support with? I know a few of you today have spoken about the UNCRC and maybe how you can start like linking that to things. And we've had a little bit of a chat about oracy and some of those skills, like the listening switch and some of the things like that. Is there anything that you would like from the Empathy Lab team moving forward?
I think when I know what our inquiry is next, I definitely be in touch if that's okay, because we're not quite sure yet.
Yeah. Would you send that to me once you know?
Yeah.
And then we can have a think about that for our next meeting then, and what sort of focus that we're taking there. Is there anything else anyone has got any burning questions or topics or any recommendations or anything that you would like from the team at all? No, that's fab. So maybe we just, oh, go on.
Sorry, no, I just wanted to kind of like butt in. Sorry. Hello, I'm Kirsten. I'm like in the Empathy Lab team, and I just wanted to kind of actually ask before we move on if actually then anybody then goes on to celebrate Empathy Action Month, which is in November, because that's something that we're really wanting, you know, kind of very keen to get off the ground, and it's sort of relatively new. And so it's just thinking about, you know, what resources could we provide that would be helpful. We started to kind of message more about it in our communications to schools, and, you know, and realise that obviously you're straddling two different year groups, because, you know, you kind of lose that class that you celebrated Empathy Day with to move on to a new class. But kind of would love to, you know, get your thoughts on Empathy Action Month and, you know, how we can sort of make more of that in a helpful way to you.
So if anyone's got any suggestions or anything like that, please email me or one of the team, and we can pass everything on to Kirsten there.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Kirsten, for that. So Elle, would you like to introduce yourself and what you do in the team?
Yes, hi everybody. So I'm Elle, and I am the social and communications marketing lady here at Empathy Lab. I'm basically coming on here. Oh my god, it's been amazing to hear all the stuff that you guys are doing, by the way. Like, because we all sit here like hoping people are doing things, and then actually hearing all the amazing work is fantastic. So my role basically is to amplify and showcase like the amazing work that you guys are doing. So one of the things I'm really, really keen to do is to start showing this on our social pages and to get your work out there. So I'm going to put my email in the chat in a minute. And if you guys have any images, or if you just want to like send me a little email of what you've been doing, oh my gosh, the empathy rucksack, and, you know, like musical chairs, or like pictures of the keyboard that has the, like, you know, the writing on for Helen Rutter's Piano at the Station, like anything like that is amazing. And if you guys are okay with me, you know, posting that, like, yeah, please get them my way. And if you're okay with me contacting you as well, you know, I would really love to just get, you know, it on paper and get it on our socials, basically. So that's me. I'll put my email in the chat. So if you have anything, please send it to me. The only other thing was, I have taken a screenshot of this meeting. Please just like raise your hand if you're uncomfortable with me posting that on our socials, or just send me a little message if you're uncomfortable. But I just wanted to sort of showcase all of the amazing things you guys are doing. So that's me, basically. I'm going to stop waffling now, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. I have to say, we have timed that so well. I timed it for an hour and we are literally 2 minutes off. So that is absolutely amazing, especially for teachers who can talk. So can I just say thank you so much for joining us, and I've absolutely loved working with you guys as part of the alumni programme and the chats that we've had. I've learned so much from you guys already this afternoon, so I really appreciate your time. So as I said, we're going to make this a half-termly event, and I really want to build on this. So involve your colleagues as well if they'd like to come along and they'd like to hear a little bit, because we're all doing such fantastic work across our schools. So our next session, we will have a bit more of a calendar of events for you, so you will know when these sessions are coming up. And there are also lots of sessions coming up. We've got a session with Manon and Stefan Ross coming up in the autumn term, which is fantastic for both pupils and for staff. Helen, what else have we got coming up? There's training as well. There's going to be fresher training, isn't there, for staff or new staff?
Yeah, we were just talking about this afternoon. So there's a couple of options for refresher training. If there are staff who just want to go over the training that they've already had, we've got like a 1-hour training we can do for that. But if you've got new staff who are new to the school and don't really know anything, they can actually join our kind of phase 1 training, which is 2 90-minute sessions. Yeah. And that might be quite good for new staff. And that just talks them through the like the fundamentals, the science behind it all. And the basics of the programme. So both of those are available in the autumn term. So if that's, you know, something that your school can make use of, let us know. I should introduce myself, by the way. I'm Helen. I'm the school's programme. I've met many of you before, but there are some new faces here today. So it's really nice to see you. And it's been amazing listening to what you're doing. So yeah, thank you for doing that. And thank you for being here this afternoon to share it.
So lastly, just thank you to everyone for joining us and everyone who's contributed, everyone who's come along and just for listen. I do really appreciate your support. And can I say, just have a fantastic summer, well deserved, and let's hope the sun starts shining for us all. So thank you very much and have a lovely evening, all of you. And we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Kate.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.